Selectmen's meeting, February 14th, 2017, town of Southampton. Opening the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Good evening, everyone. Board of Selectmen's meeting. We're down 2 members, and I guess we will start that we have no hearings. We have open time for the public. Does anyone want to address the public? May I have your name and address, please?
Tammy Walunas, 298 College Highway. I'm curious, the Hampshire Regional School Committee meeting had a public hearing for the school budget on the first Monday of the month. And it was made known to everybody that it was going to be happening. There were several representations from the other four towns that make up the school: select board, finance committees, planning boards. Southampton had nobody there. Have you guys been updated as to what's coming down to our town for Hampshire Regional?
The short answer is no.
Okay. We will be meeting again on the first Monday of March. And I'm drawing a blank at the date. And they're going to be voting on that budget at that point. I'm part of the sub-finance committee that knows what's going on with the budget and what is coming down the line for the school for next year, and what's being required, what different things that are coming in that we have to pay for, that we need to, because we're a public school, we have to provide this. So I would hope somebody would get in contact with you before that so you can see, because we're going to need your help in presenting this when it comes time for voting.
What day again, Debbie?
It's the first Monday of the month. And
So we can get this done? March 6th?
There was a PowerPoint presentation. I can try to get a copy of that and forward it to you guys so you can see some of the numbers that are going to come through. But it was just, I kind of looked around and I was like, there's nobody here from Southampton.
I honestly don't know who the rep for select board is. I think it's Shannon.
We need to know.
Charlie? I did have a discussion and sort of learned about this today from our town accountant. She has a copy of what was passed out.
Oh, she does?
Yes.
Great.
And we certainly will go through it. Obviously, we can't create a budget that makes any sense unless we know what the numbers are for the Norris School as well as the regional schools.
Yeah.
So we thought we're certainly going to go through it, and we'll have representation on the 6th of March.
Okay, great. If there are...
Go ahead. Can you send that to the select board? Can you scan copies in and send it to us?
Yes.
Great. Because whoever from the town is there, some of us should be there too, as well as finance.
The other thing is, if you have questions on where numbers came from and why there's certain things on there, I will more than be happy to meet with you and show you what we worked on to come up with what's going to be presented.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
What time is that?
It starts at 6:30 in the library. It's the 2nd floor. You go in the main and go up the stairs on the right.
Thanks,
Thank
Tammy.
you.
Thank you.
Yes, Francine Tishman, I'm Vice Chair of the Finance Committee. And in response to that, we were aware there was a meeting last Monday, but it conflicted with the Finance Committee meeting, and unfortunately our representative then couldn't make it. But I'm going to ask, on behalf of the Finance Committee that, Tammy, you come to our meeting next Monday, and then that way we can review it and then provide input into the Select Board's, for your consideration before the meeting at the school on March 6th, because it's important that we all understand and are all on the same page. Thank you.
It's, oh, so it's Wednesday.
Finance next meeting is Wednesday because of the holiday, yeah. Okay. Anyone else for open time?
Margie Strikers, Bloomer Road, Southampton, and I want to get plowed out. It's not a private way. They used to plow me out when I first moved there. And then for the last 20 years, they turn around like 2 houses before me. And I used to have to shovel the road myself, but it's getting too much.
What's the address?
39.
39 Bleemer Road? All right, the question is going to be, was that entire road accepted by the town? I don't have the answer. But
Well, to my house was.
let me talk to the highway superintendent and we'll see where we're at,
Okay.
okay? And would you leave the town administrator your phone number? Don't say it because it goes across the broadcast. I don't
No.
think you want everybody in his brother.
It's in the phone book.
It's in the phone book.
Question for you.
What's that?
Are you the last house, or is there someone?
No, there's 2 houses past me.
2 houses past you, okay. So you're third from last.
Okay. Thank
And I have another question. Why is it taking so long to get a posting for the Council on Aging?
Say that again?
Why is it taking so long to get a posting up for the Council on Aging Director?
Posting in the sense of advertising what
Yeah.
they're doing?
Yeah.
That you'd have to address to the Council on Aging. We don't oversee them.
Well, I asked them, and they keep saying they're working on it. We've been without a director since October.
My understanding is they've hired a director.
No, an interim director.
Interim
They have not posted a job.
Poor choice of words, but still, there's somebody filling that chair.
They're not very forthcoming with, I'm a member of, I still am, a member of the Friends. And I volunteered to help out, and they say, you have to get a Cory check, so I got a Cory check. I said, well, our main concern is getting our newsletter out. Because if we can't get it out, nobody knows what's going on, and you won't have people at the dinners and the different events. And I volunteered, if someone would show me the program, I'm sure I could put out the newsletter. And they said, you can't work in the office because you're a member of the Friends. And I said, aren't we all supposed to work together? And they said, the Friends can't come in the office.
Okay, well, I have no understanding of their internal organization.
Well, and I asked for I emailed the clerk, do they have some sort of bylaws that we don't, and no, there is nothing other than what's in the,
Right, what's in the town.
well, they keep making up, your friend can't work in the office, a friend can't volunteer for this or that, you have to get off the Friends if you want to be this, and they cite things, this lady who's kind of running the show is saying, well, at the library we do this, at the library, we're not the library.
When
And I
you
don't
said-
know, and there's nothing written down.
What lady was running the show?
Nilda. I'd never met her before, but I said, why aren't we all working together to keep this together? And you can't do this and you can't do that. I talked to Shannon, and Shannon's more than willing to show me how to do the newsletter, but I guess I need approval from somebody. I don't know who.
But Shannon's the interim director, right?
Right.
She said she had no problem with it, but the other lady said I can't.
We don't oversee them in their operations, so therefore,
Well, they can just make up rules that aren't written down?
I don't believe so, but I don't know
Okay.
how that mechanism works. Any thoughts, Bob?
Other than to reinforce what you've said, that they operate independently I think if the lady would like to drop in tomorrow, I can go over there with her and try and get some answers.
Want to do that?
Okay, yeah, there's a meeting tomorrow for them.
Good, thanks, Bob.
All right.
Thanks for bringing it up.
And why can't we just put up whatever we put up before when we hired a director? They seem to want to change things.
It's their program.
Yeah, it's their protocol, how they do it.
We don't have any oversight with that, so, yeah. We're the Board of Selectmen.
Mhm.
We're responsible for everything and in charge of very little. Telling you.
Well, somebody has to be in charge of something.
It sounds like the interim director, Shannon, is willing to work with you, so maybe Bob,
I think
when he
we
goes with you, can straighten that out? Because
Okay.
he, you know,
We can
Neil,
try
the-
to, but I mean, state statute gives councils on the aging in Massachusetts a very high degree of independence of the elected boards as well as your town administrator. So,
Okay.
so as a practical matter, we're not up to speed on what procedures they're following here for hiring a director. We're not normally involved with that, but we can certainly go over
Yeah,
there
but
and see
doesn't
what.
anything in town have to be posted? So
It is
people
the
can
general
bid on it?
policy of posting all positions that are available
Wow, okay.
and going through a regular hiring process.
But it's been since October and nothing's been posted.
again, the state law doesn't allow us to interfere with that, so that we can recommend or suggest, but we can't do anything else. So Bob's willing to help,
Bob's
though.
willing to go with you, go
Okay.
over there and talk it out.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I'm sorry?
What hours is Bob available tomorrow?
What hours are Bob available tomorrow?
9 till 3.
9 to 3.
Hey, they're having a board meeting at 9:30 tomorrow morning.
Perfect, you can have coffee over there.
It's right here, I think.
Right here?
Let me
Yeah.
just make sure there's no conflicts.
We have DOT in the afternoon.
Yes.
Tamara Linus, 298 College Highway.
Yes.
John, they can't hear you at home.
Can you hear me now?
I'll tell you, I'll give you a nod.
Usually it's my wife does.
Shannon had contacted me about the Council of Aging. Is that what you're talking about? She asked me if I wouldn't mind sitting in at one of the meetings and finding out what's going on, because they had an open position. I have no idea what they do or what goes on or
Neither do the people,
works.
Does it? Good.
the people who are telling us what we can do have never been at any of the council on aging functions or events. They don't participate.
What are you doing tomorrow at 9:30, Tammy?
I'll have to check.
And
All right.
they just,
Thanks.
Well, this is going to be an interesting 9:30 meeting tomorrow.
and they let us say a few words and then they go into executive session and close the door. And at the next meeting, they've changed, they put in something about, no, I've got it here, something about the requirements of the job are more on personality than qualifications. That's what they did in the executive session. I've got
They're an
postings-
independent
I know,
body.
but I've got postings for other council on aging, to the COA of Massachusetts, and they have requirements for filling this position.
I have to make you go up to the microphone if you're going to continue.
I'm wondering if somewhere in the state statute you can find out what's required of them.
Well, I've got all the postings for Massachusetts here.
But I mean,
They want degrees,
legal-wise,
they
is
want certifications, they want all kinds of stuff at other council on aging, and ours is based on personality rather than qualifications.
that's why I'm wondering what the state statute says and how you set that up.
Yeah.
It's got to be online, too.
That's where I got my information from.
Contact the Department of Elder Services. Ask them for any input they can give you.
Okay.
I don't know if Bob can give you the information.
And
or-
also, someone told our council on aging, the Friends group, that we couldn't have a raffle because raffles aren't allowed. I went on the Attorney General's website. All I need is a permit from the clerk and approval from the police chief. They say we can't have a raffle to raise funds. They just make this stuff up.
Again, we don't oversee them.
Well, I know, but don't we go by the state law?
But we
They
still-
can't change it. It's not in writing somewhere and hasn't been approved by the select board.
would
How can
talk
they
to-
just make things
I would
up?
talk to the Department of Elder Services for the state. They oversee elder services. They control the funding for all these types of programs. Talk to them.
Because we need someone in that position who can write the grants to keep us going. And if that isn't a qualification, then what's the point?
I don't think we're disagreeing with you.
Okay,
No, we're just,
Yeah, we can't do anything at this point. That's,
okay.
but
Well, who can?
Council on Elder Services?
Tomorrow?
tomorrow,
Okay,
get together with Bob.
all right. All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Open time for the public, going once, going twice. It's gone. Southampton Master Plan Implementation Committee Report. Sir,
Hank Barton, Chair of the Master Plan Implementation Committee. A lot's been going on. At our last meeting, we got a report from Mike Bueller saying he's optimistic about the Greenway. First time we've heard optimism about that for a while. Kurt Beaujolais brought in a copy of the master plan that the water commissioners have done. And now maybe they can, I'm not sure technically that was on the master plan, but the town master plan. But they've decided to devote most of their effort in the near future to repairing and upgrading the existing system, and they're putting aside any thoughts of expansion for the time being. The planning board has been working on zoning code revision, cooperating with PVPC. They have finally used up the rest of the money in the master plan account, which is now almost 8 years old since we started. And that was, of course, a big step, a major part of the master plan as far as planning board went. I don't think they've completed it yet, but they're working on it. The Agricultural Commission is working. I think they're currently engaged, or one member at least is engaged in surveying the farms in town, trying to find out what they're interested in. They're having a problem having meetings because they're having a problem making quorums, and also having a problem getting somebody to come to our meeting. And I would respectfully suggest that the select board might think about adding a member to the Agricultural Commission. Tom Bashista has been good about sending me the minutes of meetings, but they haven't had a meeting for a couple of months, unless they did this month. I don't think so. Similarly, and that is a commission that the select board can do something about. Housing, which is independent, is another matter. They seem to be stalled. The longtime chair, Vijay Dalal, is I think actually moving to Boston. He's got a promotion in the state, well, a promotion in the area that he works. I'm not sure whether it's the state or a private outfit. And they have not met for a couple of months, although they are represented at our Master Plan Implementation Committee meetings. I'm hoping that town administrator might be able to talk to a couple of people on the board and see what we can do to get them moving. Cooperating with the planning board, they did create the inclusionary zoning bylaw, which was a significant step in the master plan. If I'm correct about this, I think they set a threshold of developments, new developments, 10 units or larger to trigger
you're correct.
the act, and the current one before the planning board is 9 units. Let's see, I think most boards now have their forms online, which is another element of the master plan. And one example of one of the benefits, I think, of the implementation committee is it does get people together to talk about what each other are doing. And a good example of that is town administrator can correct me, there is a lot in town which is in land court for taking. And that lot might have enough room to accommodate an affordable house, maybe a little parking for the greenway, and perhaps room for a pump that the Water Commission wants to put in when they hook up with Easthampton.
Hank, just so you know, that's an executive session. That's an executive session tonight.
Oh, okay, there you go. So if that worked out, that would be a nice thing, I think, for the town and for those entities. Questions?
No, next meeting's tomorrow night, right? 6 o'clock?
I'm sorry?
Next meeting tomorrow night? If anybody wants to.
March.
March?
I sent an email.
I have it tomorrow and March.
Yeah.
Okay.
Every other, well, this is an issue with the committee. Planning board can't find somebody to come every other month for an hour, and I understand they're busy, and, you know, you get my own experience on the planning board and other things, you get fed up to hear with meetings. So sometimes that's an issue. Housing is typically represented. Agricultural Commission is typically not. The other boards and commissions are pretty good about having a rep there, and as are the at-large members. So, no questions. Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
I sit on the agricultural committee. Yep. I have not had the opportunity to sit in on the meetings. They're 8 o'clock in the morning, and which we thought was a good thing, but given the amount of other meetings, it's been like just not enough time in the day.
And you're the ideal person on the board, too.
Yeah, I mean, you know, so, but just to know.
Okay. There's a question out there?
No.
No?
I know. I can see the whole, you know. Marley, you want to come up?
No, I do not.
Well, you have to be heard on a microphone, or we're going to get texts and phone calls that they can't hear you. I'm sorry.
The next Agricultural Commission meeting is this Thursday at 7 p.m. on the second floor meeting room. We changed it to 7 p.m. in the evening because it was difficult getting people to come at 8 in the morning, even though originally it was scheduled at 8 in the morning so that people who work in the agricultural business could come. It turned out that it wasn't that convenient.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, yeah, it's 6 o'clock,
It's 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
And what was happening with me with the agricultural thing was I was going for meetings on agriculture out in the Boston hub at 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. Oh, really? Well, you guys are just going to have to fight it out. I'm not going to referee that one.
How long does a PQB normally last?
Hours.
If we're in a good, fast mood, we can try to be out in an hour, I guess, but I don't know how much else on the agenda, so.
Well, we can move.
Okay.
We'll work it out. There's somebody in the break room, and so it's just a matter of,
Okay. Well, this room's
we'll figure it out.
probably empty.
Yeah, I just sent a message.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, master plan's behind us. I have the fire department sitting here under new business. Do you mind if I change directions, guys, and just let the fire department go first?
Nope.
No, that's fine.
Rick Paul, 25 Montgomery Road, Lieutenant, Southampton Fire Department. Thank you for your time, and Mr. Markle for adding me to the agenda for this. As you can see from, the posters behind you, that the fire prevention in this town is very important to us, from the chief down through all the members, and from our SAFE program in the schools all the way through the seniors. Fire prevention is very important to us. So that's our priority. However, when fires do happen, as they do, it's extremely dangerous. Fire doubles in intensity every 30 seconds, so seconds count, a notification for the fire department, as well as notification for residents to evacuate and call for help. In my career as a firefighter and paramedic, I've been to several fatal fires, and one thing that all of those fires had in common were that there was no working smoke detectors in those residences. And I say no working ones because some of them did have smoke detectors that were hanging from the ceiling open with no battery in them. So the Red Cross has started an initiative where they secured funding to put smoke detectors in houses, and their target area is houses that were built before 1975. And the reason for that is the way the code works is houses built prior to 1975 are not required to have their smoke detectors hardwired and interconnected. So they're only protected by a battery-operated device. Now, when those chirp, they get pulled down and far too often are not put back up. In December of this past year, the fire code changed where now houses before 1975 are required to have a 10-year sealed battery smoke detector. So you don't have to change it twice a year anymore. It's good for 10 years. You still have to check it periodically. It's not like magically leave it there in 10 years and just assume that it works. It still, should be tested monthly, but it's a sealed battery that is good for 10 years.
Are those readily available now?
Yes, yes. The other change in the code is they're going more towards the photoelectric type smoke detectors, where basically there's a photoelectric device and there's a beam of light, and if that beam is completely broken, the device will alarm. And as opposed to the ionization type detectors, there's much less false nuisance type alarms that happen. And just like the chirping low battery ones, nuisance alarms cause people to pull them down, and they don't get put back up far too often, sometimes costing people's lives. So the Red Cross has secured funding for these smoke detectors, and they're partnering with the fire departments and communities around. So they came and to talk to us, and obviously we were very excited to work along with them. We will be providing the professional type installation and advisement on how these should be put and where they would be most beneficial in these residences. And while we're installing them, the Red Cross is going to be giving fire safety tips to the residents. It's generally about a half an hour of a time that we would be in these people's homes. So they're going to be giving 2 10-year sealed smoke detectors and a carbon monoxide detector. Carbon monoxide detectors are also very important for homes that use any kind of fossil fuels, because as I'm sure you've heard, it's called the silent killer, where it's odorless, colorless. You don't know it's there unless you have the detector to warn you. And when you get snowstorms that build up snow and cover vents and fills your house without you knowing, and it goes to dangerous levels, unless you have a working detector, you might not wake up. So two detectors and that one, the carbon monoxide one. We install them. The intent is not to bring the house up to current code. It's just to get protection into homes that didn't previously have protection. So if you sell your home and it was built before 1975, you still have to come up to the code where you have to have a sufficient number of smoke detectors per square foot and within 10 feet of a bedroom, and the carbon monoxide in every level as well. All of those stipulations, we'd be glad to help anybody with what those are. And it's also on the Department of Fire Services website. They do have a very easy chart that tells you, based on what year your house was built, what the requirements are. And it's actually, it's fairly easy to follow through that. So part of our job in this partnership is to get the advertisement out and try to get people in, and then I'm scheduling them, try to group them together so we're not zigzagging all over the town, but scheduling them. We've worked in 2 blocks of time with the Red Cross. So it's going to be February 27th between noon and 4, and February 28th between 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. So in order to get your name on the list and get yourself scheduled, you can either stop by the fire station and ring the doorbell, we'll come on and get you, and we'll get you scheduled, or you can just call the fire station at 527-1700, and you can leave your name and phone number and your address. And so basically, to qualify, your home has to be built before 1975, and you either have no detectors currently or your detectors are older than 10 years. So any detectors, whether you change the batteries regularly or not, they're not rated to be beyond 10 years old. And the previously older carbon monoxide detectors are not meant to have a lifespan over 5 years. So if you have carbon monoxide detectors that are over 5 years that were built before this year, they're not good anymore. Now they're making 10-year carbon monoxide detectors.
For all these detectors, do they have a date on them that people
Yes.
can check?
Yes. Some have manufacturer dates, some have expiration dates, depending on the manufacturer. So you just have to look and see. Sometimes they have a place where you're supposed to write when you put them in service. But I just had to put a bunch of these new detectors in my rental home in Chicopee, and it cost me a lot. These new 10-year sealed ones are expensive. So I urge everyone, for cost as well as what's a life worth, to take advantage of this program. The assessor's office gave me a list of houses built before 1975, and there are several hundred of them. So we've only gotten 9 people scheduled so far, and we've putting this out for a couple of weeks already. So we urge everybody to try to take advantage of this and get in on the program, and take advantage of these detectors, which really are a life-saving device.
Question for you. If people are renting a house in town, can they call and have it put in a rental, or does it have to be the owner?
Yeah, the person living there, really, if someone is renting a home, they need to have their home up to the current code. So they should already be at that code, or either by the resident or the landlord. They should get together and schedule that. But we do have it open. Like I said, we're not trying to bring things to code. We're trying to get protection where there was previously none. So, their goal with Red Cross is to reduce deaths from fires, fatalities by 25%, including firefighter fatalities, because the longer these fires get going, the more dangerous it is for us to be in and around those structures, and more difficult to put out. And especially these homes that were built for 75, as many people know, the way construction was back then, there was no fire stops. So you get a basement fire, that's now an entire house fire in very little time, because there's no fire stops, and fire goes up, and it's going to be through the first, second, or attic in a very short period of time. So early notification is key with firefighting and fire safety.
Hopefully you're getting a lot of people listening to this. They'll give you a call. It sounds like a great program.
Yeah, I mean, the Easthampton media came, and Captain Eline made a commercial that we're going to put over the public access. Mr. Markle and the town administrator's office has put it on the town website. Mr. Floyd has put it on out through email in the Southampton News. Mr. Kozub has put it up on the billboard out by the road through the Lions Club. I put it out on the Facebook page for the Southampton Firefighter Association, which typically a post reaches 1,000 to 1,500 people, and I know several people have shared it as well. So the word is getting out. People just need to make the phone calls I think the police were going to share it as well to anybody that might not have seen it there. The senior center has the information prior to putting out their last mailing, so they were going to be putting something in that. We have flyers that were made up by the Red Cross. We have some here at Town Hall. We put them at some local businesses with the tabs to pull with the telephone number for the fire department, both Town Hall and some businesses. So we're trying to get the word out, just really urging people to take advantage of the program and take action. And we're willing to, between the Red Cross and our department, we're willing to get as many people together as we need to get all these people done in these time blocks. And if we have to extend it and get another day, then so be it. But it's protection well worth having.
Sounds like you're doing a great job advertising.
Sounds great.
It's actually surprising how it sneaks up on you. After I heard about the program, I went over and started pulling the smokes in my own house.
Yep.
They're 17 years old.
Yep. I made a note to check mine.
So I went and I replaced them all, but I was...
Typically, when you look at them, if they look old, they are, they get yellow over time. And if you look at them and they're not bright white, then chances are they're over 10 years old. It's usually pretty easy to spot them. We go into homes and we, see there's dust that gathers in them, and they get false alarms and spiders and things like that, and they, just are unreliable over time. Even the hardwired ones in newer homes. So.
I had a fire in a place I own in Westfield, and if it wasn't for the smoke detector, the fire chief said the house would have just gone down. It's balloon framing.
Yeah.
They heard it, they got there, they knocked it down quickly.
Yes.
So it's definitely worth it.
Yes, I've been on both sides of the situation where we had early notification and quick knockdown, and then we've had delayed notification, and it makes for a long night. So.
Great job, thanks.
Yeah, super. All right, now I'm going to jump back to the business.
Can I just ask this gentleman a question while we're here? Janet Kane, 83 Glendale Road. It's new business.
I'm not saying anything.
With the snow that we just had, I noticed a lot of fire hydrants are covered and not cleared. Does anybody notify the homeowners that are supposed to clear them, or how does that, is it a finable if you don't clear them?
I do not believe there's anything finable for that, if I remember the town bylaws. It's always been a traditional expectation that the property owner that the hydrant's on cleans the hydrant.
Yes, that's what I understand as well. And when it doesn't happen, nobody, like if somebody's cruising by in a fire truck or something,
Well,
there's no notification of asking somebody to do it if it's not
I
done.
don't believe there's a mechanism in town
Okay.
to send a work crew to go clean fire hydrants. There just never has been. This has always been a community that just took care of their own hydrants.
And actually, we had a busy day today. I'd planned on putting something on our website today about asking people to shovel hydrants. Anybody in that neighborhood can also take it upon themselves. That hydrant protects all of you. So if you see a hydrant that hasn't been shoveled out by one of your neighbors, feel free to go ahead and, help clear that out. Obviously, if there's a fire and there's sometimes we can't see them. I've been to fires, my other job where, the snow was so high we couldn't see them, and we picked a hydrant that was farther away, and there was some delay there, but, really nothing, significant. And then if, we can see the hydrant and there's some snow in front of it, we'll get it out of the way, and we'll do our job in a timely manner. But we do, we obviously with 2 people during the day, we don't have the staffing to go around and shovel hundreds of hydrants. So we do ask that the community help us out in that matter, and that really is, that hydrant protects your whole community, or your whole neighborhood. So we urge even if it's not in front of your house, if you have a snow blower.
Well, it would be on town property.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you have a snow blower and the person who lives there doesn't, and you want to, circle, having a perimeter around it as well helps us, because, we have to work around the hydrant and get connections to either the sides or the steamer front connection. So, I would say, a 3-foot perimeter around that hydrant makes it easier for us and saves time in the long run.
A reminder, I think, would be good.
Absolutely, yeah, and we had an unusually busy day today. We had we had 4 ambulance calls today in little town of Southampton, but, 2 of them were mutual aid, 1 to Westfield and 1 to Easthampton, so it was a busy day throughout the whole area, I think. But I will get something up as a reminder, and I'm sure other people will share it and get it out there.
Oh, your contest to generate money.
Oh, yes, we had the Southampton Firefighters Association. We're back up and running, and we had a raffle for a large screen TV to generate money for our association, which we used for donations and events like open houses and things like that. And so we had a raffle, we had a winner, we had prizes donated by Mr. Puza, Walmart, and the package store and Valley Marketing helped us with the tickets and really helped out, and all those in the community. We really appreciate their support in that. And as part of that, part of our proceeds are going to be going to the 2 families that suffered fires. It's important to us as a fire department to have the community know that not only if you have an emergency, we'll be there to help you, but even afterwards, as part of the community, we want to help. So, it's good. Brendan Heath, he did a ton of work and really ran with it, and did a great job running it. And we, fortunately made enough money to be able to donate some of it away. So, appreciate the whole community effort in that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Going back to old business, we received a letter from the Attorney General's office relative to the special town meeting warrant items. I'm going back to October 18th. There were 2 articles. Article 4, don't go away, you'll like this. Basically has to do with people tampering with fire hydrants. Article 5 is basically to impose non-criminal ticketing, which goes towards the hydrants. So that's now in effect. It's been approved by the AG's office. So I guess nice closure on the hydrant, huh? Okay. Next item is City of Westfield response to a letter we sent in December regarding the rubber turf infill at Ruth Athletic Center. Basically, we got a letter from the Westfield Planning Department and our Planning Board. And just to summarize this, they required that the property take and install a monitoring well in that area so they can determine if there's any contaminant concerns. That's been done. I don't know if you want me to go into any detail with that.
Yeah, I read the letter. I don't know if you want to read it to the public, but.
Well, it's long. And we
Yeah,
got a
basically,
lot.
it's over one of our recharge areas. That's why we were
Yeah.
concerned.
The next issue is the policy on driveway regulations. Evidently, the policy ad hoc committee has been putting things together. There's quite a little list here, but there's also a letter addressed to the Board of Selectmen and the letters from the chair of the committee. It says, at this time construction is winding down, the select board should hire an engineering firm to explain in detail to the board and landowners the radius, grades, etc., and also the cost of an engineering plan for a driveway permit. This looks to be very costly. The highway superintendent and employees that work with him can determine if the driveway will work out or not. This is
What's the date of that letter?
September 18th,
Yeah,
2016.
that's prior to the meeting for the driveway, so
Okay.
we're almost done with that, and when we're done, it'll come to this board, and then we can review it and get public comment again. I think we addressed a lot of the issues
All right.
that, I don't think there'll be as much of an issue as they were before.
Then why is it on the agenda?
I don't know. Because we're not done, the ad hoc committee is
It's not done yet.
still working on it.
Right.
We're getting close.
Okay, then we'll just table it and move to the next. I don't understand why it was on the agenda, but anyways. Private roadway plowing, letter to the residents effect. March meeting, Jim, you sort of took the lead on that.
Right, this was brought to us by a resident of Southampton about plowing private roads. And we wrote up a letter, and we were going to send it out to this board decided to have a public hearing. So we're going to send this board's going to approve a letter we send out to all the residents on roads that we are plowing that are not public roads. And we'll hold a public hearing, I think it's what, March 22nd? Yeah.
22nd, yeah.
And so we just wanted to make an official vote of that letter to go out.
Do I hear a motion to send a letter out to those residents?
It's in our packet here.
Yes, it's here. I'll make a motion to send it out to the residents so that they'll be aware of the meeting.
And I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So the residents know what streets we're talking about. We're talking about Bass Cove right away. There's about 13 residents there. Wallace Road, Bissonnet Circle, there's about 40 residents there. Brickyard Road Extension, there's about 6 residents there. This meeting is, and I lost it, March 22nd at the William E. Norris School at 6 p.m. This is an informational meeting, so people can discuss this with us to see where we're going with this situation. Bear in mind that if things keep going at the rate they're going, by July 1st, this will not be allowed anymore unless there is other direction the town takes. Your Bleemer Road does not come up on this list. That's why I want to talk to the highway superintendent. Okay?
Well, it was only public roads private roads that we were plowing, so.
Right, but I still want to,
If Bleemer Road ends at a certain point and he's not plowing it, that's why it wouldn't be on this list.
right.
But, and also, I believe we're gonna post this meeting on
In the newspaper.
in the newspaper, and we're also gonna put it on our website. So people that aren't directly affected, other town residents may wanna show up to voice their concerns as well.
Bob, can you make,
I can do that. Just let me just clarify. I have it down for the 21st. Is it certain that it's the 22nd?
the letter, this says the 22nd on the letter.
Right.
Yeah, the 21st is our Board of Selectmen meeting. This
Right,
is
I
a
also
separate
have-
meeting.
Well, do we wanna have it in conjunction with our regular meeting, or do we wanna have a separate night?
Separate night,
Separate, this may be,
yeah.
Yep.
a long meeting. We want to give them enough time.
Yeah, I got the 22nd for the
Okay.
meeting. So, it's the 22nd. 21st is Selectmen's meeting.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find that letter here.
It's right here.
Okay, yeah.
You see
All
it,
right.
the whole part?
Update on Glendale Road. Well, there isn't much to give for an update. We're meeting with DOT tomorrow relative to this. What they're doing right now is, the Glendale Road from College Highway to Palmer Meadow Road is going to be rebuilt. And it's in the works. The next phase of that is going to be meeting with Mass Department, Transportation to discuss easements for construction, that type of stuff. Presently, they are doing an archaeological study behind basically canal bowling lanes because of the old canal, to determine if there's going to be any disturbance of any historical value. So that'll go on in the spring. We're meeting with DOT to start getting the easements set up and that, and then through the course of the summer, we'll be taking and meeting with property owners to get the easements so we can do the constructions. Did I miss anything, Bob?
Nope.
So that's that. That meeting's at 2 o'clock, and I plan to be there. And Bob's gonna be there, and the highway superintendent's gonna be there. And that's in Northampton. Town Administrator Search Committee, appointment of members. Do you have the list?
Yeah, I saw it.
It was on the agenda, but the agenda, the newest agenda I got, doesn't have it.
Here it is, Public Town Administrator Search here.
It's under appointments, right?
It's under appointments.
Their appointments? Oh. So, gentlemen, how would you like to proceed with this? There's two issues. One is appointment of the individuals, and the second one is to put their charge together.
I think we have to have the charge together first,
Yeah,
So
form the
let's agree on
committee.
that.
Yeah.
and then,
All right, I put together a draft a few weeks ago, and let everybody have time to sort of think about it. One of the things that's happening is we have more people that want to be on this committee than we originally started with. So that would be a change of vote to make this committee larger. I'm sorry? Are we selecting the people we have? Yes. I was wishing or hoping we'd have a full board here tonight, but would you like me to go through each point of the roles and we'll see how we feel about it?
I think it's worth it because it's an important committee.
No,
Yeah.
it's, yeah.
absolutely.
And everybody out
Set
there
the
can
tone.
hear, yeah, definitely.
All right, this is the Town Administrator Search Committee charge. This is the role and responsibility of this committee. The committee shall consist of members consisting of the Police Department rep, Fire Department rep, Finance Committee rep, Highway Department rep, Town Treasurer, Town Accountant, Personnel Board rep, and 4 representatives of the community, with the option of more members if needed. Members will be appointed by the Select Board. Now, are we comfortable with that? These are the people that actually came forward asking to be on this committee. We don't actually have 4 residents, we only have 1 actual resident.
I guess a couple comments. One, it says shall, so that if we approve it, it's got to be that way, which I'm not 100% sure is good.
Yeah,
And-
I want to say may.
Yeah. And also, these are all major, well, there's major department heads here which report to the new town administrator. So I don't want to be lopsided on reports versus people outside the town hall, because I think it's important to balance it. So, it's up to you,
Charlie,
Charlie.
do you have that list? 'Cause do you have,
Yeah, I have it right here. Oh, no, the individuals, yeah, it's on the appointments tab. Okay.
Francine Tishman, Vice Chair of the Finance Committee, 83 Glendale Road. There is concern among some of the members of the Finance Committee that there is an imbalance in the composition of the search committee, in that it appears that there, from the list that I saw, there were 5 department heads and who are also, not all, but most are residents of the town and taxpayers. And the other 3 were a mix of committee representatives or just, residents of the community. And so looking at it and saying, from a perspective of how many of us get to pick our boss and be involved in that process. And then, that was just how we were looking at it and saying, should it be open or should the balance be shifted in some way so that it's less on the people who might eventually be reporting to that person and more of committee representation or residents.
One of the dilemmas was this has been open now for a number of months, and there hasn't been any residents forthcoming with an interest, as we have with a lot of committees and boards.
Yeah, I know I've talked to a number of people that have personnel background that I've asked many times, and they say, well, we don't want to be involved with it because it's so political. And I says, well, we're trying to make it non-political just for that reason.
My understanding was that we may have talked to some of the same people, but their concern was being a resident and then being on a committee with department heads.
Well, that's the
And
political
how that
part,
might
yeah.
shake out down the line. And I think that was concern of people, and affected their willingness to volunteer for this process.
That's what I was saying, but I was trying not to say that way. But thank you. Do we want to reconsider, and I don't know if I want to say this, do we want to reconsider a board member on there in case there's a tie or there needs somebody to direct them? And as it came out loud, I probably don't like that. I was on the first one, and it's just controversial. It'd be better if they brought it to us, I think.
I think once you get into the committee, you become vested in individuals, and then when you come
Yeah.
on to this committee, you're bringing that baggage forward, not you personally, but, you know,
I agree. Can we edit that out? So
that was stricken. See, Bob said sure.
Yeah, I think I agree to the extent, I mean, maybe 3 department heads and maybe 4 community. So we have a 7-member board, something on that idea. I
Well,
just think,
that's where we started with. The problem
Yeah.
was we didn't have residents coming out asking it to be on it.
maybe we gotta run it by them one more time. Maybe by changing it to 3 and 4, it may change some people's mind on.
I'm wide open with this. You know,
Well, being the one resident that did volunteer, do I have to?
I'm sorry. It's just, we get lectured when
But you
we-
know who I am. Cheryl Fletcher, 22 Gun Road. So the main reason I volunteered is because I manage a large pediatric practice. I have lots of experience, and obviously, we're a large landowner in town, and we're not moving, and so not only are we residents, we're here, and I own a business in town, and we participated in master planning. So it was all reasons. I was asked by some of the folks that are department chairs that stopped at the farm and said, you have good experience, you should volunteer. And my concern was that it was going to be very political. But that's also the main reason that I decided to finally submit my application, because I think there are lots of smart, intelligent, young professional people in town, and I think if more people made the effort, I have the time now. I have never volunteered on a town committee, and so that's the main reason that I volunteered. So I do think you need a good mix. I do think that you should really seriously consider trying to encourage, and I will too, a couple of other residents to make up a good, well-rounded committee to choose the right person to manage the town. Whatever the government, however the structure of the government changes, I think it's really important. There's too much going on right now.
And by the way, volunteering is like potato chips. Once you do one,
We have an opening on the Conservation Commission. And there's room on the Agricultural Commission.
so it sounds like we're all kind of coming from the same thought process, balancing the town department heads with more on the citizen resident side.
Do you want to table this for tonight and see if other people apply in the next week?
I don't necessarily think we need to table this. We can go over it. If there's any changes, we can make them in the interim, and then table maybe selecting it, but going over the draft and trying to figure out where we want to make changes.
Fine, that's fine.
Well, yeah, I think if we throw the thought out there that let's do 3 department head and 4 the general public,
I mean, that was the original.
and let's see where that falls. Let's see if we can't, maybe if people know that, they may come forward. Just a thought.
You're really addicted to that podium.
I am. I've got one, I got a taste for it. Janet Kane, 83 Glendale Road. You do have 3 residents, right, as far as Cheryl, thank you very much. Mike, who happens to be also on the Finance Committee, but he's not a department head. And then Cindy Palmer, who's, I think, a trustee on the library, but also a resident. So, I don't want Cheryl to feel that she's the only town resident that doesn't work for the town, even though some of them are volunteers for the town. So that's just for my clarification.
It's really
and
one more
understanding.
on that end, and then 3 department heads, I
Yep.
think would be a good mix.
Yep.
In my.
Do I hear a motion to establish this as
A 7-member committee.
7-member committee represented by 3 department heads and 4 residents of the town?
3 major department heads? Or
I
does,
would do major department heads personally.
and 4 representatives of the community.
Not representatives, not the department heads, but
Right,
representatives.
representatives.
Look at this, it says representatives of the department.
Correct.
It doesn't mean that you're gonna get the police chief or,
Right, right. Agreed. Okay, I'll make the motion to change the first bullet, which is the formation of the committee.
And if it has to change, well, I'll second it for discussion. But if it has to change, we can go, keep the ratio similar. If we go up to 4 department heads, maybe you want to add a few more residents.
I think we also said you could have ad hoc members who come in and help out where their strengths are, but may not be voting members. They can bring input to the committee.
But it's probably a good place to start.
Yeah.
so if I get this right, we're looking at 3 department representatives from the 3 major departments. And the 3 major departments are,
Police, fire, and highway? Unless you want to,
just
Yeah.
throwing this way to make sure everybody's on the same page. And 4 members of the general public, even if they're on a committee or something of that
Right.
regards, because they're not getting a pay from the town.
Well, I don't know if you want to, there was people interested, the treasurer's office was, so where do you draw the line for 3 department heads? I'd say 3 department heads, and let's see where that falls.
All right,
okay,
And then 4 residents. I wouldn't isolate it right at this point.
okay.
again, I'm saying department representatives, you're saying department heads.
Okay, department
So-
representatives, correct.
So let's clarify this.
My understanding of what you guys just said was you want 3 major departments represented on this committee and 4 members of the general public that are town residents.
I would leave the word major out, because we don't know what departments are going to be yet.
So then we would go with 3 representatives of town departments
Correct.
and 4 residents of the town.
And I think I'd leave the tail ending on with the option of more members if needed. Members will be appointed by the select board.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good start.
Are you getting that for the notes?
Yes, I have it down. The other question would be, do you want me to set up any interviews with search firms?
I would like to get the people on board first, myself, before we do the interviews of hiring a search committee.
I was going to say, having been involved with a bunch of search committees, it takes a while, so I would say do them in tandem, because you're going to have to find search firms and see their interest, kind of find out the costs involved and all that. So I'd say I would do them at the same time. And so when we're ready for the interviews for the search committee, we'll have the committee in place.
That's okay. Yeah, I got no problem with that.
So, repeat that again, please, John.
So you're gonna go ahead and look for search firms that might be interested,
Right.
kind of feel them out as to their background and
Mhm.
cost.
Yep.
And when it comes time for the search committee to be formed and ready to talk to the search firms, you'll have 2 or 3 ready to go.
Okay. And we'd like to set aside like one night and
And do it.
do interviews in tandem, right?
And I wouldn't put it on a Board of Selectmen regular meeting night,
No.
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 special one.
All right. Do I hear this as a motion?
Well, do you want to complete everything, or do you want to do them one at a time?
I was thinking one at a time, but if you want to do them,
Well,
it doesn't bother me any.
I think we should make our changes to the whole document, then vote
Vote
on
it.
it, yeah.
Okay. All right, second bullet. The terms of the office shall be for the duration of the project and/or until the committee is discharged.
Fine.
That's simple, straightforward,
Straightforward.
yeah.
Good.
The committee shall report to the Board of Selectmen as required. Another just straightforward. The committee shall elect its own chair, vice chair, and clerk, and shall establish a regular meeting schedule. All records of the committee shall be filed with the town clerk and the open to public inspection in accordance with applicable state statutes. It's pretty straightforward.
Looks good.
Let's see here. The committee shall not have a direct budget for their own, but may request funds for specific purposes through the Finance Committee and Board Selectmen process. The Select Board shall be the final approving authority on any expenditures. Basically, we have a separate line item for this, for the consultant, and the Select Board is going to keep control of that.
Well, that would make that more clear then. Wouldn't you just say that they can request it to the select board and we'll make the decision? Or-
Yeah, I kind of think that's what it says, but
Yeah.
I don't know how articulate you want to be with this
Okay,
thing,
I'm
Jim.
just-
I mean, I don't care. If you want to say that the Board of Selectmen will authorize any expenditures, period.
Yeah, that sounds good.
John?
yeah, cross out starting with but and end that process, and I think that does what you want to do. It says, it'll say the committee shall not have a direct budget of their own. The select board shall be the final approving authority of any expenditures.
There you go.
Yep. You got that, Bob?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I feel like you've been ostracized sitting way over there. All right. Members shall serve without financial compensation. Pretty upfront. Committee shall review all past reports from prior search committees and related documents. That's basically try to get them the history of what went on in the past.
Yep.
The committee's first task will be to advise the select board as to hiring a consultant to help the committee perform its tasks. Now, this is saying that they're going to do the interviews for the consulting. I'm hearing the board saying we're doing the interviews for the consultant.
Yeah, that's what I was a little confused about up front. I didn't know if we hire a consultant that would help us set this committee up proper, or do we do it the other way around? It's, I guess, a decision we gotta make.
Well, I would strike this line entirely.
Yeah, I think if we hire the consultant as a select board and give it to the committee, that way that they won't be involved with that, they'll just have the task at hand.
Right.
I like that.
So that line is stricken completely? The committee shall work with the consultant in developing the final job description and wage classification for the town administrator. Because there's been such a flux with what the role is for this town administrator. I threw that in there so that a separate group would work on it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So in addition to the task of interviewing, you want them to have a final job description, which obviously has got to be done before we
Right, that would probably.
advertise.
Yeah.
So that's one of their first
one of the
tasks.
first things.
Okay.
Probably task one, well, two after they select a chair.
Yeah, as long as the next bullet comes into play before we advertise it, which looks like it will.
This,
For purposes of the salary and for the 18 budget, that decision has to be made without too much delay.
Yep. And next bullet says it has to go before the personnel board for review and then the select board for final approval. So it'll go through the normal process.
Okay. Just again, from the Finance Committee, Francine Tishman. Another thought that we had is whether or not the job description was going to include any management functions for the town administrator, thinking that that information, and anyway, information about the job description and getting it out perhaps in advance might help get more people involved in the process if they understood better what the role of that individual would be, and looking ahead to the future of the town and what is our planning in terms of its structure.
the Personnel Board has a copy of the draft job descriptions presently. Any feedback that comes from the Personnel Board would obviously be well received.
Charlie, I have a thought about that. Because a number of departments and boards are elected, that effectively manage our departments. You have elected people or elected boards and so forth. Any initiative to change the role of the town administrator and add more management functions might very well come up against the roles of some of the elected officials. And so I have a sense that you're going to have to do this. Many communities do it by statute, but you're going to have to do it minimally, I think, by a bylaw. Otherwise, I think you could end up with assigning more management responsibilities and then an elected person resisting, saying, no, you don't manage me, the voters do. So I think you have to somehow make that potential conflict work out.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about elected officials being managed by the town administrator.
No.
I wasn't either, but it happens where,
That's more, in my mind, a dotted line where they work together.
Right. But then you have some appointed officials who are appointed by elected boards. Or, you know, and who would then, I guess there might be some confusion, who manages that individual? Does the board do it? Or, I'm just saying, if you're going to enhance the management, central management through the town administrator, and I think there are going to be some conflicts there that probably have to get worked out by town bylaw.
And I think this is where we should work them out before we hire the person.
oh yeah, absolutely.
That way it's clear to everybody.
Right.
It's a good point, Bob.
Janet Kane, 83 Glendale, Personnel Policies and Procedures Board member. I guess I don't see it as, and the board may disagree, but the board personnel, the PPP board, that it's our decision whether to enact the study that was provided to the select board to give this individual more management authority. I think that's not our decision as the Policies and Procedures Board, but really either a kind of piggybacking on what Bob said, that's, you know, we can do a job description, but if for some reason you need a stature or you need, you know, a town approval, you know, it really has to come, I think, before we do the search, understand really what that job description is from your direction and the town's direction, not a group of elected and volunteer members of a policy board.
I think that's what we're agreeing.
Yeah, I think that's what.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole reason I started with putting these bullets in is because I could see that until we get a job description and we get a pay grade, we're not going to be advertising to hire anybody.
Yeah. I see the job description being finalized, then going to the PQB to review for salary and all that, but not maybe putting it together in the functions that have to change by town meeting.
All right, where was I? The committee shall work submitting the recommendations of the job description and wage classification of the personnel board, okay. The committee shall, once the job description and wage classifications have been approved, seek out applicants for the position. I think we all agree with that, once that's out of the way. The committee shall, with the consultant, screen out the applicants and submit to the select board the 3 finalists for the position. That works for you, Jim?
Yes, it does.
The committee shall assist the select board in presentation at town meeting, budget meetings, public forums, etc., as needed. That's the "in other duties as assigned" statement, because you never know what might come down the road.
Yep. Just a thought, because we've got a lot of experience in Bob, can we put him on the committee, even if it's a non-voting member, depending what the select board wants, because I think his background can give us a lot of insight.
Yes and no.
Okay?
Yes, we can. No, we're pulling time away from him for his other duties, and he's half-time as it is. So we need to decide how much we want to dedicate his time into this.
Oh, but it says here we don't pay for this position.
Oh, congratulations, Bob.
But with all the background, all the knowledge, I think.
Oh, I'm not debating that. I just don't want to throw too many apples into the cart. And
Yeah.
maybe he could be at a first meeting or two to get ball rolling.
He's gonna be anyways by default.
I'm just throwing that out.
We know that. Bob knows it.
Right.
It's just the nature of the thing.
So do we want to officially put him on there, or just have him as an ad hoc member that can contribute
hoc.
as needed?
Ad hoc member.
Okay. Thanks for volunteering, Bob.
I've done that. I did that in Northfield.
Did you? Okay. Yeah.
Sat in ex officio with the committee, but non-voting.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. You got all the changes, Bob?
Yeah.
All right. Approve it with the changes?
Make a motion, we approve the Town Administrator's Search Committee Charge 27 with changes as made.
2017, yes, I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Now, we jump to, well, we did the rolls. So that's done. I guess we'll jump into emergency generator, town hall update. Mr. Labrie.
Well, back when Don Snyder came and talked to our board about the possibility of a cooling center here, and of course, communications when the power's out, getting information out to the public, I thought maybe a generator here would be a good idea, a backup generator. So I started and I contacted a local contractor I just wanted to find out what would it cost to have a generator here to do the backup. I heard all kinds of numbers, so I just wanted to size it and go from there, get a number. So I met with the contractor. He went down there and looked at it, and he threw a number out. First of all, I think it was a 100 kW, and that would run everything. And the number of the generator, and I also called Jackie Sears' husband, Hoyle Gas and Electric. I says, do we have the capacity of the gas line to run a big generator here? And it's not a problem. We have plenty of fuel. The fuel capacity is good. So it's in a neighborhood of $35,000. So I'm just trying to figure out, is there a grant? I want to meet with Don Snyder next. I want to see if there's a grant available, or do we do it by fundraisers, or where do we go here, from here? So I haven't gotten past that yet. So
What was that number about?
about $35,000 is what it. I actually the contractor I called. I know we'd probably have to go out for bid or whatever we have to do wherever this goes, but he said he would do it at generator at cost, and he was supplying manpower and supplies to hook it up for free. He was located in Southampton for years. Blanchard and Daly is the guy I talked to. So where we go from here, I just wanted an idea what it would cost, and so those are the numbers we're looking at right now. So I haven't gone any further than that, but that's the direction. I think it's important. It's something something I'll look into.
Yeah, this building should have had a generator for a long time.
Yep.
Any thoughts, John?
No, I mean, if this was Doug you were talking? Blanchard?
No, it was actually Bob
Okay.
Cody. He's the
Okay.
new owner.
I mean, if it's at cost and it's free labor, if we go out and do a bid, it's going to be double that.
Easily.
Yeah, but he was willing to help out the town and go forward.
So
So
that was great. So
Um,
if we're going to do it, we need to take advantage of that offer.
Yeah.
yeah, so I was going to meet with Don Snyder next and sit down and talk to him and see what his thoughts are. And he mentioned on the phone that there may be some grants available, and if a grant gets involved, well, the price may be a little different. But I just need to know where to start. I need to size it at 100 kW, and we do have the fuel to run it. So those are the most important things I found out.
Well, Don's the emergency manager for the town, Don Snyder. So maybe you can talk to MEMA, Mass Emergency Management, and see if there is grants available.
Right, that was the next direction.
Okay. Next topic, shared conservation agent with Easthampton. Bob, you want to do this one?
Okay. Pioneer Valley Planning Commission received a grant for $49,000 to set up a shared conservation agent with the town of Southampton and the city of Easthampton. We had several meetings. Charlie attended the initial meeting with representatives of the Planning Commission. The projection is that the agent would be available to Southampton for 7 hours per week. Projected salary would be $20 to $24 an hour. And the city of Easthampton would supply the rest of the funding for the position. One wrinkle to start with was that the State Department of Revenue was going to require that all the funds be spent this calendar year, which we all thought was bizarre since the state operates on a fiscal year. And that once the calendar year concludes, the expectation would be that both the city and the town would pick up the cost, their share, from their operating budget. At the meeting Charlie and I attended, we said that that wouldn't work here, since the selectmen had already established their priorities for the fiscal 18 budget, and this was not one of them. And budgets were being prepared based on the goals that were established last fall. I went to the MMA annual meeting. I talked to Sean Cronin of the DOR, and he said, call Pam Coker is the person in Boston who oversees the program. And anyway, made the call, and she agreed that the program could be extended until June 30th, 2018. And so if we go forward, we would have 6 months funding beginning January 1 of next year, concluding on June 30th through the grant. And at that point, the fiscal 19 budget of the town would be used to pick up the 7-hour cost for the shared conservation agent. So this was in the works before I came here, I'm sure, and because I think Charlie expressed an understanding. Then when I went over to Easthampton and met with the mayor, she also understood that the funding would be for the entire year, number one, not just 6 months, and secondly, that it would operate on a fiscal year basis, not a calendar year basis. Fortunately, the DOR is flexible, and so going ahead with the program, we could begin in January, and you could plan into the 19 budget the approximate $7,000 to $8,000 cost to the town annually for continuing with the shared agent. Did I cover everything?
I believe so. So basically, this budget doesn't get affected at all.
18 would not be affected, yeah.
All right, East Street Bridge update. No.
Just real quick, yes.
No.
Janet Kane, Finance
I'm
Committee
sorry,
member.
but you're not recognized by the chair. We're moving on to East Street.
Okay.
Sorry. East Street Bridge. The East Street Bridge, evidently we're trying to get this bridge repaired, and we're basically having the problem trying to get it funded. We had another meeting with our engineers relative to this. We met with Representative Cocott, and we're trying to get some lobbying going together. But the reality of it is, this is going to be a long haul. We're now looking at talking to Pioneer Valley Planning and seeing if they have some way of approaching it. I don't know. Anything else we can say about it?
No? No, that's...
All right. Next thing.
Other than we were talking about rebuilding the road and the bridge and the timing for both projects.
Right. Part-time employee benefits, I didn't put this on the part-time employee, I didn't put this on the agenda.
This has been on the agenda for a while, it's been passed over.
Well, we're
Just
past,
didn't take it off.
didn't take it off,
Right.
okay.
Right, that's supposed to be worked into the next year's budget.
Yeah, it's next year's budget, it's
Right.
not even a. Firewood availability. As you know, we have piles of firewood in the back of the fire station and town hall. Talked to legal about taking and being able to give this away to residents. There is a mechanism to do this. Basically, we just vote that it's surplus, and they have to, what we're gonna try to set up is, because the snow's on the ground, it's sort of not a rush thing. What we'll try to do is get a waiver signed by the individuals that want this firewood. They'll go down to the fire station like on a Saturday morning. Fire department's willing to have them watch the paperwork, they can sign it, and they can go out there on Saturday and pick the firewood at their own risk. That's it in the summary, I mean.
So these folks are gonna sign a release and come with chainsaws
Yep.
on our property?
Town council felt that as long as we had the waiver, it shouldn't be an issue. I think I copied you on the email.
Oh, you did, I wanted to make sure, brought it up. It seems to me we're just asking for issues. Is the value of it that much? I mean,
The value is actually very low.
so can't we get somebody, K&J or something, to come in, just take it off?
I'm open if you can find somebody.
I'm just wondering if somebody would take it and turn it into firewood on their own, and people coming on our property with chainsaws and their buddies, and all that stuff, I'm just concerned about that, even though they sign a waiver. That's my opinion.
Yeah, well, if you get something like K&J or somebody that has workman's comp, so if somebody gets injured, you're covered, but if one entity takes it up, but if there's no value, that might be difficult.
That's the reason it's sitting there.
Yeah.
But if there's no value, people aren't going to want it to put in their house. So there's got to be some value for firewood.
There is. There
So-
is for individuals, but what the point is, for us, as a pile of wood out there, we don't have much of a value.
But I wonder if the value of the wood is enough to bring a company in with liability insurance to take it at no cost, kind of, we're making out because we're not getting charged, and they could just reprocess it, cut it up at their own place, and sell it there. To me, that's you get something for it. There's value there for the work they're doing.
You want Bob to call a few companies and see if somebody wants to take it?
It might be a good place to start, and if we don't have any luck there, then we move forward with by then the snow will be gone.
Yeah, right now, it's go find it.
You're not gonna find it.
If it was all cut up, ready to go, and people just loaded into their truck,
Oh, yeah, I
I'd
agree
be
with
okay
that.
with that,
Yeah.
yeah.
You want to do that, Bob? Call a couple of companies?
Call some companies and see if any of them would be interested in taking it all.
Right, somebody that has the insurance, workman's comp and so on.
Do we know how much is there, or?
I don't.
Yeah.
There isn't that.
I mean, if for some reason you're not getting anywhere, or you don't have time, let me know and I'll make some calls.
Well, I think clearly any company doing that is going to have to come out with a big chainsaw.
Or a truck that plucks it.
They're very large, heavy logs.
Yeah. I mean, I had tree work done recently. They came in, cut it down, big logs, just plucked it and left.
Yep.
And wherever they cut it up, they cut it up.
Okay, that's fine.
I don't know what kind of wood it is and whether it would be useful as firewood. Is it
Mostly hardwood,
hardwood?
but
Yeah.
it's mixed.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll wait and see what Bob brings back. Russellville Road, Sackett Brook Bridge. I read the DOT report on the bridge. It doesn't seem to indicate anything to me that's an issue.
A lot of 5s and 7s, which,
Yeah, it's
pretty
acceptable,
reasonable.
standard stuff.
but it said one area was washing underneath.
Yeah,
I don't know if that has to be addressed.
well, but they're not saying it has to be addressed, so I guess.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, discussion or proposal to take, excuse me if I pronounce this wrong, Papyrus parcel on Gun Road out of 61A for residential use. My understanding is Conservation has voted that they're not interested in the first right, and nor has the planning board had a concern with this, so it's simply a vote of this board. Do we wish to allow this to happen?
Yeah, that was a pretty complex letter that they sent.
I know.
Very confusing, but bottom line is, I don't think we have
I
any
sat in
interest.
and listened to it at the conservation meeting.
Yeah.
I understand, but I don't want to stand here and try to explain it to you, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
Do I hear a motion?
So this is just waiving our right of first
Yeah,
refusal.
that's all it is.
I'll make a motion and we waive the right.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's passed. Okay, custodial services for town buildings, town hall, library, police department. Bob, you want to run with that one?
Yes. We've had a number of discussions occasioned by some complaints, and a series of complaints from employees about the condition of the restrooms, particularly women's room, but also the condition of the floors, dirt, sand, and so forth. And so out of those discussions came an initiative to meet with the school superintendent and the principal at the Norris School to see if it would be possible to share one of their custodians. In other words, take the first step towards consolidated facilities maintenance for schools, town, library, so forth. They have an employee who is employed half-time, once full-time, and they thought that would be a good fit. And superintendent said that he would calculate the cost for the town. I haven't talked with him today, but we should be getting that soon. And we'd look for a decision from the selectmen as to whether to put that money into the budget for fiscal 18 so that we could have regular maintenance. The other side of that coin is, do you want to fund maybe a spring and fall cleanup effort, bringing in a professional company to do that, and not just sweeping the dirt up, but washing the windows and doing more of the heavy maintenance requirements. We would have to have a cost for that as well. Last night at the Finance Committee meeting, they had asked me to come up with a list of initiatives and costs that would go into the fiscal 18 budget. So as of tomorrow, that's what I'm going to be doing mainly, trying to get that list together, projected costs against what we think will be our revenue for fiscal 18, our new revenue for fiscal 18. Obviously, we have to accommodate the regional school system, the local school system, the second shift for the ambulance as big ticket items, but we have some smaller items as well, including the 2% for town employees. So we're going to try and put all that together in a package. Here are the costs, here's the revenue that we anticipate, and see what we can fit in at that point. So it's a matter of getting a number, as well as having, and once we get a number, if the selectmen are agreeable, I think we'd have a discussion with this individual to see if they're willing to do it. The sense of the school people was that yes, that would work well, and then put monies into the fiscal 18 budget.
What budget was in the information we got tonight? There was one proposal for that. Town hall, the police station, the library. Was that the one that's doing the school now?
I did not look through that tonight.
Yeah, I saw it was in the Dropbox. There was one proposal. I didn't know if that was the current company that the school's using.
Well, the school has their own employees, they're not a company.
Okay, okay. So.
Yeah.
And basically, it's a person that wants to be full-time anyways. So,
Now, the highway department was seeking bids from private companies
Right.
to,
Okay, well, there was one in there, so
Yes.
maybe that's
Right.
one that came out right.
that's what
so.
it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, the question is going to come up, so I might as well ask it. Right now, the position's being funded out of the Highway Department, right?
Yes.
So is it a thought that we're going to leave that money in the Highway Department and refund another half-time position, or would we
I think
transfer?
that's a policy decision, whether.
Well, that's why I wanna bring it-
The highway superintendent would argue that he needs the position.
Yep, yep.
For highway duties as opposed to maintenance. and
Well,
so
somebody's going to bring it up, probably the Finance Committee, but I think it's a valid question we need to answer.
Right.
The hope, my hope, would be to leave that person in highway.
Okay.
Because if we don't, we end up with a half-time person in highway. And I don't think that would serve any purpose.
I just brought it up for discussion.
No, I'm not taking it another way than giving you my feelings. All right. Oh, Bob, you might as well do the IT.
IT. Well, we had our system crash 2 weeks ago on a Thursday. Email went down. We didn't get it back until Saturday afternoon. Email is provided by a company in Utah under contract, and apparently they're very busy. Art Lawrence is our person in the building who has been informally overseeing our IT activity and operations here. He called the company in Utah and purchased a 64 gig server. The 32 gig server was filled. That's why the system crashed. And it's all email that we have to retain as public records. So we now have a 64 gig server collecting email. That should last probably another year and a half, and that one will be filled. Because of the dissatisfaction with the service, they simply couldn't find time or, I guess, employees who could migrate from one server to the next. And so out of that frustration, Art recommended that we contract with Northeast IT that does much of our maintenance right now, that we add on email services to the work that they normally do with the town. In a discussion with Northeast IT, their recommendation is that we sign on with Microsoft Office 365 for business. Cost of that would be $7.74 per user per month. The advantage of it is each user gets 50 gig of cloud storage. You know, we have now 64 for the whole town. A user would get 50 alone, so that would solve our longer-term problem with saving email, at least for 5 or 10 years. And with that, I have the personal version of that, and they update your Office programs to the latest versions automatically. And so you have the latest versions plus the cloud storage. And I've used it for a little over a year. It works very well, the personal version. And the business version is just enterprise level. So that's their recommendation. Once we set that up, they would continue to provide any maintenance services that we require. System runs pretty well. We really don't need much in the way of maintenance. Once in a while, you got to restart the server. And we've had some particular problems. I'm a little concerned that the service from Northeast IT is a bit slow. I've been told that that's partly because we don't have a contract with them. And so today, when I met with Hampshire County Council of Governments representatives, there's a purchasing consortium, and they also offer IT-type services. I thought I'd take a look at what they have to offer and ask around with communities that use them to see how satisfied they are with those kinds of services. And I see no reason The service, when we get it from Northeast IT, is good, sometimes very slow. For example, my machine has decided it's not going to open Word files, and I have no idea why. And so I called today and asked if they would take a look at it. They don't come on site anymore. They do it remotely. You give them authority to control your computer, and then they will do the maintenance functions remotely. And I haven't heard back. So fortunately, I didn't have any crucial files that I had to open for tonight, but it's very frustrating when you can't open Word files. So I think we can get something better, and I think we can do it certainly with the budget for fiscal 18. I see no reason to make any changes before July 1. First of all, because we paid for services this year. And as of July 1, I think we have some time, maybe inclined towards Northeast IT, but also look around to see what else what other services might be available at a good price.
A couple questions. How do they define user? Is it by computer, or if 5 people use that computer, is that 5 users?
I believe they would define it by computer, because that's where the
that's
software
the best
would
way.
go, yes.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whose hands are on the keyboard. It just matters how many have they loaded down the software and how many have the cloud storage.
Okay, so that's good.
So-
And I think I brought this up last time, but on emails, if you're in the 2 box, you've got to keep the emails legally. If you're in a CC box, you don't legally have to keep them. And
Right.
I recently had my staff go through that,
Yes.
and you can get rid of 20, 30, 40% of your emails to clean
Yes.
up the,
Yes.
so that's a good task.
The other advantage of switching, and I don't know that you would see this kind of frustration, we're all frustrated with the system that we have because there's an enormous volume of junk mail that comes in. I probably receive 75 to 100 emails a day, of which a third, and sometimes even more, 40%, are commercial ads and junk. And as fast as I unsubscribe, somebody else finds the site, finds my email address, pops in unrequested advertising.
Charlie, I'd like to back up for 1 second here. I just want to make it clear on the Papyrus 61A release.
Yep.
I voted for that in necessity. I own property across the street.
Oh.
So technically, I'm a butter, but because there's only 3 people here, we had to make a decision. So if that again is unlawful, then I would withdraw, but if
No,
I think it's a
basically what you do
necessity,
is
so.
2 of us voted and you abstained.
Okay, I can do that if you'd like.
Well, I mean, if you want to step away from it a little bit, we're a majority if the 2 of us vote.
If that's the case, he made the motion, I believe, right?
Yeah, I made the motion, so I might want to
Oh.
back up if you want to change that.
John makes the motion.
So why don't you, I'll rescind the second if you want to rescind your motion.
I'll rescind the motion.
Okay.
So John made the motion,
I'll make
I'll-
the motion that we release it, the property.
and I'll second it out of necessity. And all in favor?
Aye.
John and me,
And abstain.
you abstain. Okay?
Just to clear that up.
Yeah.
Yep,
I
no,
just
that's good.
noticed that, I just thought of it.
No, that's all right. There's so much of this to,
Yeah.
you got that okay, Bob?
Mhm.
All right. Marla, donation of property off Brickyard Road Extension. To the Conservation Commission by Stephen Holland. My understanding is the property owner wants to donate this land to the conservation / town of Southampton. It's basically next to the rail trail area and park, and land that's already owned by the Conservation Commission. Seems like a routine thing to me. I guess the real question is gonna be,
I didn't see that.
who is going to lead this? Are we going to use legal to take and put the deeds together in that, or is conservation?
I mean, we're going to say conservation, of course. But another question, have we checked it out, make sure there's no issues with the land, nothing that was contaminated or anything like that?
There's been no 21E assessment done by an LSP, if you're asking.
I was asking it in less specific terms, yes.
Okay.
I just want to make sure before we take something that it's not going to be a hazard for the town and we have to clean it up.
I don't know of anything out there personally.
It's 9 acres, it's not that much land, and in your agenda, Mr. Howland's last name is not spelled correctly, just so don't keep perpetuating that, please. You know, in 2011, we, using community preservation money and Conservation Commission money, we purchased the CR. It's next to Parsons Memorial, and it's the back end of the Manhan Meadows Sanctuary.
You guys feel okay with this?
I don't know anything about the land. That's,
Well, historically, I don't think there's been any industry out there, so,
No, it's basin for the Manhan.
It's a swamp next to the Manhan,
yeah, I think you should be fine.
but it's our swamp, and those are important swamps.
I mean, if the Conservation Commission did their due diligence and recommend we take the donation,
We do.
I don't see an issue with taking this. You know, I sat in on the conservation meeting, listened to what was going on. I understand where the land is. The real mechanism now is put it as a town meeting article, and we need to make sure that the deeds are put together so we have something. And the question becomes, does this get financed through the Conservation Commission?
do we have any idea on the cost? I mean, I don't think we can vote for something without a cost attached to it.
What's your pleasure?
Well, of course, we would rather not use our money to pay for it. We have a very limited set of money, but a lawyer has to do the deed paperwork. I would not have any idea how much it costs to have a lawyer do that.
Could we find out, get an estimate? I mean, making a decision and not knowing how much money, you can't make it and we can't make it. So if we knew it was going to be $1,000 versus $10,000, then that's maybe a
You're
different.
talking about just to handle the deed?
Yeah, do the research.
Basically, you're just
I
gonna,
think it's between
Do the title search
$1,000
and
and $2,000, I would think.
I mean, basically, you're gonna do a title search. Once
Right.
you do the title search, you already have the description of the land.
Yeah.
So it's just changing the deed over, and then there's the filing fees.
And we have all the paperwork from when we took the CR in 2011. That's not even very old, and we had to go through lawyers and paperwork for that.
Really comes down-
I'm a little confused. Is this a donation of the land, or is it a
Yes.
CR?
Yeah, free.
We have the CR now.
Oh, you have a
He's giving
CR,
us
okay.
the land, yes.
Yeah.
Mr.
we just
Howland would like to
discussing
give
who's
us
going to pay for the
the lawyer.
paperwork
Right.
and the title
Okay.
search and all.
Yeah, I think that should be reasonably cheap in
I
comparison
think
to the
that would
land.
be, yeah.
I think that's a great,
CR would be more expensive than doing a deed, title search.
I don't think we have any money in our legal budget to afford $2,000-3,000. So,
I mean, this isn't something we planned on by any stretch.
right, so do we take it out of the operational stabilization at town meeting, or,
We actually have leftover money in our free cash still.
okay, from there?
There's what, 25,000?
26,000.
Okay,
There's also around 8,500 remaining in the reserve. This is an unforeseen and unanticipated expense.
yeah, I think it's important, I think. I
so
wouldn't want to turn it down.
Well,
is that the place to go then, to the reserve fund?
I think we also have another one we're going to talk in executive session. It might be good to tag both of them together with the same attorney.
Community preservation, you get involved in something like this.
I don't know.
Well, they're offering it for free, so just paying the
Yeah.
legal is pretty cheap.
And it's open space.
Open space.
Yes.
That would qualify under the open space.
Yeah.
And we know they have money. At least cover this.
think it's a good way of approaching it.
We just want to start to make sure that everything is ready to vote at the town meeting.
Yeah.
Right, well, that's the reason it's on the agenda, so that we get this moving.
Maybe saying Virginia Ahart would be a good step?
I think that would be a good step for Marla.
Yeah.
How about, let me talk to a few attorneys to see if they're interested and see what kind of costs we get to do it,
Okay.
and then we can decide about the money as we go.
Sounds reasonable?
Super.
Does that work?
Yep.
Does that work for you?
Yes. Do any of you need any of the paperwork on the property or
I
the
will.
restriction? Well, I guess I know where you live. I know where your mailbox is here. Let me know what you're looking for. I have the file.
How many acres is it?
9.
9 acres, okay.
I was worried about people that know where I live.
And you know where I live.
I was there when the tree come down.
You can run, but you can't hide, Charlie.
Man. All right, procedure for disposal of tangible surplus, like the trees and all the rest of that. Let's pass over that for now and pick it up at another meeting. Okay? Warrant for annual town caucus. Do we actually have a warrant?
We do. That was given to me today by the town clerk. I have some items for you to sign. This is one of them,
Okay.
okay?
Do I hear a motion to approve the warrant for
Yeah, March 14th.
March 14th? It's a town caucus.
You have that there?
Conflicts, yeah.
I have it here? Yeah.
Okay.
It's always going to be a conflict.
I know, I haven't seen it.
These are all the items to sign.
No, no.
Want to read it into the record?
Not on a legal-sized paper, unless you want me to.
No, just summarize it. Everybody knows what,
Yeah.
or I hope everyone understands.
It's just
what a town
greetings.
caucus is.
You're directed to notify and warn the inhabitants of the town Southampton qualified to vote in elections and town affairs to meet at the town hall, first floor meeting room, 210 College Highway in said Southampton, 7:00 p.m. Tuesday, March 14th for the following purposes. Goes on to say elect the chairman, elect the clerk, nominate candidates for election at the annual town meeting, and it lists all the candidates and all their terms. Polls will remain open till 9. You're hereby directed to serve the warrant by posting up attested copies at the town hall in Southampton and in the same usual places in said town 7 days at least before. That's basically what it says.
Okay.
I'll make a motion, we accept it as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Done deal. Want to sign it?
Yep. On to page 2.
Yeah, it's going to be a long night, guys. Bob, I see the contract with the state for the Safe Routes for School, but I don't see it on the,
Not on.
okay. Well, we got to sign this contract. This is a contract with the state to move forward with the Safe Routes to School. As you can see, the state likes a lot of signatures. This has all been vetted and reviewed and everything else, so it's just now been finalized. What we were waiting for was town meeting to authorize the money for the water line.
Okay.
So do I hear a motion to accept? Don't fight over
I'll
it.
make the motion.
I
I'll
hear-
second.
Any
Working on
discussion?
that for a while.
Yeah.
Isn't that in section 10?
Yeah, she did get it on, I'm sorry.
Yeah, section
You got it on, yeah, section 10.
Hey, he put all this paperwork in front of me to sign, so I just went for it, but you're right now. I didn't see, if you look at, you see how much stuff is on the agenda tonight? That's why I've been trying to sort of move things. Okay, so all in favor? So voted?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay, it's voted on. Now, Bob, the way I'm reading this, it's got 2 places to be signed. Is this being signed by the chair only?
I was puzzled by that also, but it seems like that's what they want.
That they,
I thought that you would vote and they'd authorize you to sign.
all right, am I authorized to sign this contract?
Well, if it's got multiple signatures, we're here, we can sign it, or you
Well,
can
that's the
sign it.
funny thing, look at this.
Yeah, under city of town, or,
Right.
that's only one signature.
I don't know, I didn't,
That's what it looks like, yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
then
So you're approved to sign those.
approved to sign it?
Yeah.
If I go to jail, you guys gonna come visit me?
What's your name again?
Leroy.
Yeah, let Marla know you moved because she knew where you lived.
Gotta move again.
Hey, you're gonna get a new cell number.
Yeah. Begin to think she's stalking me the amount of times she goes by the house. The only good thing is she's always looking the other way at the horses.
You know she can hear you.
Okay.
Hey, can I ask a question here? We're on page 2, and I see way down at number 9, Mr. Sadler's been sitting here for a while. Can we just jump there and
Sure.
take
let's
care of
move
that?
over
So
to- Yep.
I would have seen you before, I would have brought it up, sorry.
That's fine, thank you very much. I was here last year, we took my brother's name off Dave's Auto Sales and put mine on, he subsequently passed. So the license was issued effective the first of the year. Subsequent to that, my tax man, my insurance man, and the issue of probate came up, and they all suggested I change the name, stay the same place, and just get new tax numbers and start fresh. I requested the town to do that, I've got a new business certificate, and that's why I'm here this evening. And I
So it's
love-
just changing the DBA.
Yeah, doing business ad. I
Yeah.
saw that.
Yeah.
That's
So
all.
from Dave's Auto Sales to Hometown
Yes.
Auto Sales?
I hear a motion.
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approved.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
We could have did that 2 hours ago.
Yeah.
What do you want me to say at this point, right?
Now we're doing good, we're getting through everything.
All right. Either one of you, John, you want to do the PCFs,
You want me to read them off here?
please?
Okay.
I have the paperwork. I hope I sorted it out, but that doesn't look like the original stuff.
So I'll read them for what we have. Personnel change forms. Job title, auxiliary police officer, Jeremy LaRoche. Part-time auxiliary, adding to auxiliary police officer staff. Okay. Do we want to vote on these one at a time, or we want to read them all?
I would just put them all, just read them all.
Okay. And personnel change form for Jeremy LaRoche. Yeah, this looks like a front and the back copy. Okay, name Shannon Cutler, part-time, no benefits, emergency, interim COA director, $9.48 an hour for 13 hours per week, for 2 weeks total. It's all been signed off on. Here is Shannon Cutler, interim COA director. Okay, this is a temporary, no benefits. Same rate, 1948, 13 hours a week for 12 weeks. It's all been signed off. This is part of hers. Okay. Joseph Veal, firefighter, EMT, part-time, resignation. Joe has moved out of town and his current availability does not parallel our needs. It's signed by everybody. He's got his resignation letter. Okay, Katie Soban, firefighter, EMT, resignation. Katie has secured full-time employment in another fire service. Okay. Signed off on. Firefighter EMT Timothy Rowan. Emergency. Stipend added for completing the EMT training program. He's able to work independently as an EMT as of this date. Okay. All the approvals. Timothy Rowan, part-time. Same rate, all signatures. Transfer station attendant, Dave Bernier, resignation, retired. All signatures. Okay, personnel request, transfer station attendant replacement. Dave Bernier's retiring. It's a personnel rec form with a job posting. Posting date was January 4th. It's coming out of the enterprise fund, 20 hours per week. Signed off by the PQB and personnel. And that's all we have.
Do I hear a motion to accept as read?
So moved.
All in fa- oh, go ahead.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So approved.
Have a good time.
There you go. You want to sign this? This is for Mr. Sattler.
Okay.
Put these aside or it's going to take everybody all night signing stuff. Okay. So that's done. Now we have appointments.
I think a lot of these we have to pass over because they're with the town administrator search committee.
We got three.
Three. Rich
Fazoli.
Fazoli, he wants to be on the Public Safety Committee.
Yep.
Jody Loud, Cultural Council, and Robert Fletcher, Agricultural Commission.
Yep.
Do I hear a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so those are done. Now we got some other licenses. Let's see. Edward Palmer, special license alcoholic beverages for June 3rd at, I imagine it's Conan Park.
Yeah, it is.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, common vicular license for Maxi Drug, known as Rite Aid. This is routine. Do I hear a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Common vicular license, Pioneer Valley, STD, known as Stop and Save Extra Mart, another routine. I hear a motion.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I've got a question.
Mm-hmm.
And now that we're on the license permit, I saw advertise recently of a new restaurant opening up at Red Rock Plaza 15J, I think. which I'm believing is going probably where the old Johnny Diamonds is?
Yes.
Okay, but I haven't seen any changes come before us here. And they opened up yesterday, as I understand the ad in the paper.
Well, it should have been an alcohol change.
Anything.
Yeah.
Track it down?
We have nothing on that. We'll have to obviously check into it.
Yeah, because, yeah.
I remember something occurred here about 6 months ago, but just check into
I
it.
think it was Iron Kettle, is that what I'm remembering?
There was
Yeah.
something that went on 6 months ago. The license was changed, but now we have a different name.
Right.
So when we renewed it at the end of December, what did we renew?
I don't know.
We should look at that
It
first.
was Johnny Diamonds, I think, remember? Yeah.
Yeah, I remember, but I don't
Yeah.
know what, I
Could've
mean,
been
when
a
you look at,
DBA that we
yeah.
don't know.
Well, that would have to change too, though.
right,
Yeah, I
so Bob,
suppose.
chase that one down.
Yeah.
Let's see here. We did the 61A, we did the Safe Routes to Schools. Anything else? Bob, anything that I missed?
He was
No.
doing the minutes today, he said. so
Other than,
Got 'em right here.
I gave you 4 sets of minutes tonight.
We probably want to look at those. for
You
next meeting.
you may want to take a week to look at them, but
Yeah,
we are focusing on catching up with that and trying to have minutes approved at the next meeting, so we can get them posted.
just so the board knows, when I changed the agenda last weekend, I put into it the warrants that I had signed last week and the week before. When it got rechanged, somehow they dumped all those numbers. So we'll put it back on for next Tuesday's meeting and take the vote on that then.
Okay.
Anything the public would like to address us with before we go into executive session?
There was a Edward Farmer one-day liquor license. Did we go over that?
Yeah, we did that.
We just did that.
Okay,
One question, when do I come back to find out about what I brought up?
you're gonna meet with Bob,
I know.
and as for the road stuff, I'll talk to the highway superintendent, and as long as you give Bob your phone number, somebody will get back to you, but you don't need to come back here for that. Okay?
Okay.
All right, I need to basically get into a roll call vote. The board is going to go into executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, Item 6, for purchase, exchange, lease, and value of real estate property for 2 issues. Do I, roll call vote?
Are they in the
They're in
executive?
for executive session.
Okay. How you doing? Martin, aye?
Our Labrie, aye.
Kaneki, aye. Okay, we're into executive session. We're taking a 5-minute recess.